Welcome to Challenging the Norm, his and hers look at life and business, hosted by Paul Snell and Lindsey Burden. This podcast is designed for solopreneurs, entrepreneurs and business owners redefining success on their terms. Each episode dives into the topics that truly matter, offering a blend of candid discussion, practical insights, all delivered with a sense of humour. We reality check the latest business trends while offering a fresh perspective that challenges conventional thinking. Paul partners with business leaders, leveraging cutting-edge neuroscience to demonstrate how people-centered strategies drive transformational success. While Lindsey brings her unique approach to business coaching, empowering ambitious business owners to achieve financial abundance and a lifestyle rich in time and joy, all without compromising what matters most. Together, we are challenging the norm. So grab a coffee or your beverage of choice and join us as we explore the art of creating a life and business you love.
Paul, it's another episode and I'm taking the lead. I'm taking control, Paul. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm just being super impressed with your branded hoodie.
I know. It was a gift, a business gift to myself at Christmas.
Nice.
It's got my website address and my logo on the back as well.
Fantastic.
What I'd wear especially for you and anyone who's actually watching, not just listening. Because if you're just listening, branded merch.
Pointless. Yeah, pointless. But my question is, do you wander around the streets with it on? A great bit of advertising, better than a billboard.
Well, it would be, except as you know, I am a lazy extrovert and rarely leave my house. But one of the reasons I did put my logo on my website on the back was in case I did go out to the shops wearing it.
Well, there you go. Can't argue with that.
No, there you go. What can I say? Now, Paul, today I wanted to talk about something. So we've done sort of, we've been talking a little bit more about pipelines, and we've been getting more practical this year and really diving into some of the areas of business, the stuff that we actually do, while not forgetting, of course, mindset, 'cause that's really important and we love all of that, and bringing in our look and feel and throwing in everything that we know over our years of business. So I want to carry that on if I can, Paul, because I want to talk about sales and I want to talk about why particularly selling is so difficult and challenging. Because unfortunately, if we don't sell, we don't actually have a business. You can have the best branded merch that you want. You can have a beautiful website, but if you don't make selling a priority in your business, haven't really got a business.
And in fact, just that someone always resonates for me on that. When I first started out in business, a mentor of mine said, you do realize if you own a business, by default, you're a salesperson.
Ta-da!
There's no alternative. There is no bypassing that. You need to do the selling. So in agreement with you, that is fundamental to anybody who owns a business. Now, people will say, oh yeah, but Paul, I just have a website that sells things. And I go, but even if your website is selling things, you need to be out there talking about this website that has your things on it. So it is selling.
But there's this real fear, isn't there? And I'm just going to come up with some things that I will have heard. Oh, but I don't want to bother anyone. That's a good one. Or, I don't really like selling. Yeah, that's another good one, but you're going to have to get over that. Or, selling's really hard and it's yucky and it feels wrong and it feels really nasty and icky and horrible. Yeah, get over all of that as well. Because without it, we don't have a business. But I think so many words I could use there. When people start out in business, they don't realize that selling piece is so important to their success. And I don't think we talk about it enough. And I also think there is this element of being very careful how I say it. I think us women, I think we find it a little bit more challenging than men, perhaps. And let me explain. And I always use this as an example. Many years ago, I went to the dentist, and I can't remember this particular dentist's name. All I can remember is he was very good looking. But apart from that, which is, not helpful and quite sexist, so perhaps I shouldn't have said it. But let's get back to the story. So he said, I had a good checkup and everything. He said, okay, Lindsey, you need to have X, Y, and Z done, and this is how much it's going to cost. Never said another word. There was no words necessary. That's how much it's going to cost. He didn't justify it. He didn't feel like he had to explain himself. He just stated what was required and how much it was going to cost. And I've talked about it and I've used that example so many times when I've done any training or any conversations around sales, because that for me was everything. This is what you need. This is how much it's going to cost, and shut up.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. There's only one thing I would add to that. You going to the dentist was already a need.
Yes.
Going to the dentist. So there was a need. And what he did as a consequence to that need, because whenever we sell, we're looking at how can we balance what we're going to charge for that thing against the need the customer has. And you know, without getting into dentists, it's not cheap dentist stuff. So your need would have been sitting there going, oh, that's a significant need. He's going, well, I'm paraphrasing. It's really quite simple. Here's what you need. This is how much it's going to cost.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very standard transaction, isn't it? What you've just described is essentially a transaction. There is a need. I can fix it. That's how much it's going to cost.
And that's the point, isn't it? It is very transactional. And I think if we can take out the emotion that's connected, and the reason I use him as an example is because he didn't say another word.
Yeah.
What we, air quotes for anyone that is not able to see me right now, and particularly women, but we are all, you know, we all do this. We'd say what we're going to offer. And then we say it's going to cost, let's pick £5,000. It's going to cost £5,000. But because you're best friends with my mum's dog walker, who lives next door to your auntie's uncle's best friend, and we've got the same dogs, today it's £1,000. We keep talking, we keep justifying, we keep finding ways of discounting. And before we know it, we've sold our incredible £4,000 offer for £1,000. So we've sold it at a loss. Now we feel miserable. They feel devalued because it was worth £5,000. You haven't made it more attractive. What you've done is you've made them feel, well, she doesn't think, or he doesn't think that I can afford that.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm worth that. So there's some real challenges, and there's a lot of mindset. We do like a bit of mindset. There's a lot of mindset around selling. But I do think, Paul, if you want it to be easy, just create a process. Follow the process.
It is. And I think I 100% agree. And I'll go as far as saying, whatever happens, stick to that process. Very rarely do I say, oh, stick to the process rigidly, except for this. Because the minute you deviate from this process is the minute the doubt kicks in. And I think a lot of people ask the question or end up going down this rabbit hole of, well, just because you know so-and-so, I can reduce that to £2,000, blah, blah, blah. What's happening there is you're not confident in what you're selling at the price you're selling at.
Yeah.
So because that lack of confidence, and by the way, without getting lots of technical stuff here, there's mirror neurons, right? So if you're not confident, they pick up on it, essentially what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And the idea that you're sitting there going, well, if I drop it a bit, and maybe they'll turn around and say, oh, that's a bargain, I'll have it. And it doesn't work like that. It's all about the balance between the need and the cost of achieving the outcome for that need. All of it. But if you stick to the process you describe, you avoid that doubt that kicks in.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say is I would encourage any business owner that's starting out to get your process in place, because you can tweak it as you go along if you need to make it work for you. But even if you've been in business for 5 years or 10 years and gone, hang on a minute, I don't actually have a process. I spend a lot of time with my clients going, right, let's nail this process. What does it look like? And by process, I'm talking about you've made an offer. What's the next steps that you need to take? And more often than not, those next steps are when you follow up. Because if you know that your process states that you will give them a call in 24 hours, you will drop them an email in 48 hours, you will follow it up again 3 days later. If you know, you will always do that, and it won't feel icky and it won't feel salesy. Even better if you get a process for your, and it depends, I mean, it's really hard. In our business, we need to have discovery calls and we need to take someone through a a journey where they know that we are the solution. We are going to help them move from A to B. And therefore, we really want to convert on that sale, on that call rather, because otherwise other factors come into play and we'll start to lose that person. If we can get them to convert in that call, brilliant. But then what's your process after that is equally as important.
Yes, it is. And so I've got a question. So without jumping in too far down this process bit, but there's always this thing that goes, what if they say no?
But it goes back to my pipeline, isn't it? They're a no for right now. I've had plenty of clients that have said no. They're a yes later on. So, and again, and we talked about this when we were talking about pipelines, it really depends on your business model. But for me, providing they're still in business, they could be in the pipeline for 10 years.
Yeah.
It makes no odds to me when they come to me. There will be a perfect time and a right time, and that's when they will start to work with me. So if they're a no here, they could be a no further down the track, which might be 6 months, 12 months, and that's okay. But remember, it's a no for right now. And the other thing I would add to that is when somebody says no, celebrate that no, because it means you're closer to a yes. Also, it means that perhaps that wasn't quite right anyway, and you've now left space open for an even more incredible client or an even bigger opportunity. Too often we get fixated on the, oh, well, they didn't sign up and now, and let's face it, Paul, this has happened to all of us. They've said no. Oh, I'm no good. My offer's rubbish. I need to recreate my offer. I need to sell it at a lower price, and off we go. But if we can just stop and go, it's a no right now, what opportunities does that open up for me?
But that's the significant thing, actually. I think this is really, really important, is no isn't a closed door. You see, and equally, no it's too expensive either.
No.
We've got to really get this. It can become very easy to go, they've said no, therefore my price is too high. They've said no, therefore my sales approach is wrong. Yeah. We've got to nail this no piece. It's right up there with pricing, right? And we've talked about pricing before, and we'll talk about it again. But how you deal with the no's is right up there with how then you're going to move forward. Because if the answer to it's a no, I'll go back and offer 50%, I promise you that's not sustainable business. And more importantly, it doesn't give you any credibility whatsoever. It just looks like you overpriced at the beginning.
And also then it looks like you're desperate. And in our industry, nobody wants to work with a desperate coach, let's face it.
No.
And there's a number of things we're talking about here, isn't there, is really setting out your processes as early as possible for the actual sales conversation. And that's all it is. It's a conversation where you will help that person decide to work with you or not to work with you, and both are perfectly okay. So having a system or a process that works for those calls, that you can also track your conversion rate, what works, what doesn't work. And also recognizing that not everyone says yes on a call. Sometimes they do need time to think. I'm a thinker. I mean, there are times when I've been on a sales call and I've gone yes and I've bought in. And there are other times I've gone, do you know what? I just need to step back. So either way is okay. Yeah. And then it's about what is the process? When am I going to follow them up? Because if someone says on that sales call, I just need a little bit of time, you can come back with no problem at all. How about I give you a ring tomorrow, or I drop you an email tomorrow, or I give you a call on Thursday? What is your process? Follow that process through. It doesn't feel icky, because you just want to help them to make a decision.
You do. And just on that point, these little things come to mind as we're talking, as things do. On that point, whenever it is I need to go away and think, my recommendation is offer them 2 times when you can call back.
Nice.
So say, well, I can call back next Tuesday or Thursday. Which one would suit you best?
Like it.
And it's really, and it's not, look, this isn't about getting, I don't know, deceptive. It's not. What it's about is allowing them to choose a point, in which case their brain has processed whether they want to move forward or not, or whatever happens to be. So I completely agree with you that, and I think one big point here, just to harp on, because you talk about it a lot, and I think it's really important. don't underestimate the benefit of something like a CRM where you can record all this information, because, you know, we can get very easy to go, oh, well, let's chat next week, Paul. And you go, oh, great, I'll chat to him next week. And then nothing happens.
No, and I can give you an example. If I used to hold these calls, my conversion rate was shocking, because I would hold these calls and then they'd go, can I think about it? Or I'd end them going, how about I send you something and then you can have a think about it? And that's as vague as you can be.
Yeah.
So what I twisted, not twisted, because that sounds like I was trying to be clever. What I decided I needed to do was whenever when I was feeling resistance or it was obvious that they need a little bit of more time, I would say, I will send you X, Y, and Z. And let's face it, sometimes you do need to send them something. I said, but how about we get a call in the diary now? So the same as here's your 2 options.
Yes.
I said, let's get a call in the diary. So I have an opportunity to answer any questions that may have come up for you. My conversion rate went up.
Yeah. Perfect.
And sometimes I didn't even get to the second call. They'd message me and go, yeah, I'm in. Just instantly, because I felt more in control. Yeah. It felt better. It felt easier. The other thing I would just wanted to touch on, and we've talked about or mentioned the word discounting and how you should never discount your prices. We live in a world, and I have grown up, as you have, Paul, in a world where summer sales and, you know, the New Year sales was all we had.
Yeah.
You knew that twice a year, the retailers would offer you everything that was left in their store at half price. And suddenly the thing that you didn't want 3 months ago because it didn't suit you now really suits you because it's only a £5. That's what we grew up with. There is a sale all the time. And I'm working with a client, and it's unusual. I don't tend to work with anyone that's e-commerce. But one of the things that she has decided is that she won't do sales for sales' sake. So that she's very strategic in how she offers any money off. So if you sign up to her mailing list, yes, you get a 10% off. That's quite standard in the retail industry. And she will do some sales sort of around January time. But otherwise, there are no sales.
Yeah.
If you want something off her website, do not wait for a sale, because a sale is not coming. And often when she comes to that sales point, it's very particular items that she wants to move through because she wants to renew her stock. So if you want something, do not wait. Yeah. She is training her audience not to wait. It's foolish.
Brilliant.
So we can do that. And I think when we're busy discounting left, right, and centre with no strategy, 2 things happen. One, it devalues everything we do. And I've already said it devalues the person in front of you. But the other thing that can happen is people know that you're going to offer a sale at some point, so they're just going to wait. We all do it. Put a few things in it, and retailers are a great example. You put a few things in the basket and walk away, and then you get an email that says, oh, you have great choice. Here's 10% off. Thank you very much. But the other thing for me that certainly happened in my business, I would hold my hand up. I had been discounting so much, and I looked at what everyone, I was like, there's no continuity here. How am I ever, and I was like, right, this is my price now. How am I ever going to grandfather these people? There's different ways you can do it. You can grandfather people to a new price. You can just give them a price increase. And I was just like, this is a mess. And it took me a long time to sort that mess out. And I never went back. I never went back to creating that kind of mess because it didn't sit well with me.
No, I think, but, you know, we live in this crazy time of, I don't know. I could start talking brands, but I won't because I don't know if I'm supposed to or not. But there's an awful lot of cheap stuff you can buy out there. And so we become more and more trained to cheap. Yeah. And it's never been a truer word spoken than if you buy cheap, pay twice, right?
Yeah.
And so we're talking about quality. So if you're seen for 1 minute as a cheap version of something or cheap, then people's minds will kick in straight away. I can remember working with someone many years ago. He was an incredibly qualified, highly qualified, talented coach, and they felt, and their ideal client was high income, and they felt that they couldn't charge well for a workshop. It just didn't sit right with them, so they charged £35 a head for a high-end 2-day high-end workshop with ideal clients that are in the higher earning bracket. So she got people picked up on it. That, you know, they did sign up. No one turned up for them. Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
No one turned up. Those that paid, it was nothing. What's 35 quid? She couldn't earn a living out of it at all. So you can see where this all goes. It's the same way I can remember working with someone who felt the need to discount the work they did with big charities because they're a charity. And nobody is saying that, I'm not saying for 1 minute you need to be seen to be, taking the Michael out of a charity. I'm not. But please understand, charities need quality. And charities know they need to pay for quality because that's life, right?
Yeah.
It's very different when it comes to you deciding to contribute to a charity, to give. That's one side. But the charity needs to be seen to be professional in what they do. So they need to pay for that quality, and they're willing to do so.
Yeah, they are.
It's not a question of I need to discount. It's so much in your own head, isn't it? It's so much in our own head that we have to decide because we feel all the emotion runs through our head about a situation. I need to discount. I'm too expensive. No one's going to buy it from me. I'm not as good as that person down the road. Right? It's all in our head, which is why when we started this conversation, I'm saying, have a process and stick to the process. Don't go down the rabbit warren.
You're so right. And I did know someone many years ago who had one price, a lower price, for businesses they worked with that were down in the south of England. So if you're in the UK, think of England and sort of go London down.
Yeah.
They had one price. And then London up, they had another price, which was higher. Well, sort of the London bracket. Don't go too high because they probably would have discounted it up north as well. And I was like, why are you doing that? And they said, well, they've got more money. I went, but their overheads are higher. How does that even compute? I was like, just stick to your price. And this comes back to pricing, isn't it? Have a price and stick to it. If you want to offer something, if you want to, I was going to say discount, I don't want to use the word discount. If you would like to work with charities, but you would like to do something slightly differently, you could have, and I have worked with businesses who have a charity rate, and that's their way of giving back, but it's not much less than what they would pay. Or why don't you offer them something a little bit extra? So they might be buying X, Y, and Z, and you're going to give them a little bit of as a sweetener, as an extra for them. So there's so many ways you can do it. But work it out fast and work it out at the beginning.
Yeah. And stick to it. Yeah. I can't stress enough, stick to it. Don't for 1 minute, just because you don't get lots of yes right now, when you first get going, don't think, I need to change the plan. No changing. If you've done your due diligence, if you've spent time talking to your ideal client and finding out where the pain points are, what is it you can do to improve their life, their business, whatever it happens to be, in a way that's meaningful. If you've done that, spent that time, and let's be honest, Lindsey, if you're going to become a coach, I'd like to feel you've at least sat there going, so who am I going to coach? What am I helping them fix? And have I spoken to a few people? Rarely does a coach sit there one day and go, do you know what, I'm just going to coach. It doesn't work like that, right? So the more we get to know the need for our potential clients, and therefore we can define very clearly a price, then there is no need to change. So stick to the plan.
I think the ease of selling and that confidence in selling comes from strong offers that you believe in, which is linked to, am I offering what they need? Am I doing something in my zone of genius? Compared to, I just needed to create a quick thing because I need to make a quick buck. If you've done your due diligence, to use that word, and if you've done the work that is necessary, then you will have a really strong offering. And when you have a strong offering, it is easier to start those sales conversations. And I know lots of incredible sales coaches who will tell you the same thing. It is nothing more than a conversation.
Yeah.
If you start to put anything else or any other pressure on it, then it will become more challenging. But actually, it is nothing more than a conversation. And the other thing I would add to that is when you're having these sales conversations, do not be attached to the outcome.
No.
It doesn't matter if they say yes or no, either is great. The minute you put pressure on the answer to be yes, whether that's because you need to make a sale right now from a financial point of view or any other reason, you will not, picking up when you said that mirroring of energy, you won't make the sale.
You won't. And so one of the things that helps me with that is to have this CRM and view it as a journey. Because I go, right, I'm having this conversation. At the end of this conversation, I'll have an update to put on my CRM.
Yeah.
And it's still a journey. We're still going forward. I've just got more information to now add so that I've got a better way of planning the way it goes forward, right? So I completely agree. Now, I do have a subject that you touched on that I know we wanted to bring up, is there a gender bias in selling and the issues with selling? We've got some time left. I thought, let's dig that one.
I think it is. It is only my opinion. I think women find it much, much harder to sell. I think we are in that space where we want, and I'm generalizing, we want to help everybody. And selling just feels so uncomfortable. It's so alien. And let's not forget that there was a time when we weren't allowed our own money, we weren't allowed our own bank account, and all of those kind of things. That's still in, whether we like it or not, it's not that long ago when we did not have access to any of our own money, when we needed permission from a man, I presume a husband, to get a bank account. So we're not that far away from that.
Yep.
So we are still in a place where it feels really uncomfortable to talk about money. And I think that's the challenge here, is it's uncomfortable to talk about money. That's quite general. And I think here in Britain, and particularly the British, we don't like to talk about money. Not really. I don't know why I had to put a posh voice on because I don't get it. So there is that. But I think for women, it just doesn't feel right for us. It's really hard, Paul.
Yeah, I can get it. I can see it, right? And all the history supports that view. But there's a but in there for me, and I think this is from a male perspective. I don't think it's just me. I actually think women are much better at selling than men. The ones that do, the ones that are prepared to have the conversation, in other words, the ones that get over the challenges you've described, which are not small, right? But when they do, I think women are much better articulating a sale. I think there's empathy there. I actually think there's an historic thing there too. I think there's a cultural thing there too, because I think certainly at the entrepreneur, solopreneur level, excuse me, I do think there's a sense that women can bring a real empathy to that, and men can be seen as risky. He's one of those dodgy sales. Very rarely, if you were to look at any popular media, in fact, I can't think of one where they depict a dodgy salesperson, it's always a man.
Yeah. Now, picking up on that, I think you're absolutely right. I think once women get over the challenges, which are not easy, and you said that if you're in that space, it is quite challenging to get over those, that fear of selling, that not wanting to bother anyone, building that confidence. I believe we are better at it because we take it's that know, like, and trust, and we're in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
And we are I'm going to generalize here about men, but I have been in the old days in a networking room where when a man gave you their business card, they expected you to ring and place an order. They expected you to ring and to do business with them. And when you rocked up the following Friday and then when you didn't call, I was like, no, I didn't know I needed anything. And I've been there so many times. And that actually, in those arenas, wasn't confidence, it was arrogance.
Yeah.
To make a sale. Where women are here for the long haul, and we're really good at building know, like, and trust. We're really good at seeing how we can help. And I think the other thing we're really good at, and again, we are generalizing because there's women out there that don't do what I'm talking about next. We're really good at saying, do you know what? I don't think you're ready. I don't think you're at the point to do this. I don't think it's right for you to work with me, or I don't think I'm the right person. I think women are really good at going, okay, and I've done it myself. I don't think you're ready to work with me. I think you need to go and do X, Y, and Z. I've had people say, yeah, I'm ready to work with you. And I've said, I think you need to go and get a job because of what you want to achieve. You're not going to get self-employed. You need to do X, Y, and Z. And it's great when you say, I'm not the right person, but I think you need to speak to this person or do this or do that. And there is a real wonderfulness in that. And women are good at that.
They are. But I think for me, your description that fits most is this know, like, and trusting is relational.
Everything.
It's absolutely relational. And I think women are very good at the relational thing. But the but in that is these are huge hurdles, the ones we described about this cultural history we have, the fact that we women can believe that they're just not good enough, or men aren't going to buy from her. Goodness me, it's a man, he's not going to buy from me. These are significant. Now, what the positive about that is they are surmountable. Right? We see it. I meet some amazingly successful women, just like yourself, who do this really well. And so we're not in a situation where culturally it's illegal, right? Because there was a time when you wouldn't have been allowed to have a business. We're in a time when once you're over those humps, then women are particularly good at this. If I think back how much business I do with men compared to women, I would say it's probably 80-20 in favor of women.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Fascinating.
It is. I'm the same. Absolutely the same. And I think in part that's because women also are open to learning, to developing, and to growing, where I think there are some men out there who still believe that they can absolutely don't need a business coach. What on earth for? And I'm being very careful what I say, and we're being quite flippant with some of the things we're saying, because we know that there are plenty of men who find selling as challenging as the next woman.
Yes.
I know plenty of women who are brilliant at selling and as good as the next person. I do think it comes down to finding your way. There is no, 10 steps to being a brilliant salesperson. There are lots of incredible techniques and things that you can use. But if you can just take a moment to map out if you use sales calls, what your sales call looks like, and what, for me, it's absolutely a conversation. I want to find out everything about your business. I want to find out what lights you up, what doesn't light you up, find out where I can help, if I can help. And then if you can have that process that enables you to follow that up so that you take your 10 steps to a yes or a no. And the minute you do this, I guarantee that you start to move away from feast and famine. Because feast and famine is that place where, you've got some business and it's all quite great and everything's going great. And then you suddenly start losing business and now it's gone into panic mode and now I've really got to hustle.
Yes.
Let's smooth it out. So just coming back to that, are we saying that both men and women are similar in many ways? I mean, I think probably the kind of men and women, the kind of men that I know are like you, Paul. And, they are not the hustle. They are not a buy from me. They are not the dodgy car salesman, which is the traditional sort of phrase, isn't it? So what we're saying is maybe we're seeing a greater balance to sales and the challenges of selling. But could we say that it still feels a bit more difficult?
I would. You're making it sound so nice. I think the reality is, I think it can be a real challenge for women. I am so pleased there are people out there that are women that are successful, that can show other women how that's all achievable. I do think, by the way, we're seeing huge progress, in my opinion. The media, the fact that you've got these hugely successful women that do I mean, goodness me, there's even one on, what do they call it? What's the one with Alan Sugar in?
Oh, The Apprentice.
Yes, you got a senior woman in there. I mean, look, I'm being a little bit flippant, but the reality is, I do think the tide is changing. I do think it's tough for women. I do. I do also think it can be tough for men.
Yes.
But if you were to push me and say, where does the arm sit on the pendulum, it probably shows it's still more tough for women than men.
I think that's what's been so fascinating for me as a personal reflection of this podcast. It was always about the his and hers. Now you and I share our values, ethos. We're so alike in so many ways. But every now and then we are able to find something where there is a little bit of friction, I guess, between, the gender bias. I think what's most fascinating, when we get to those points, we're still on the same page. You would still say it can be tougher. And yet at the same time, I'm still going, I know that there are men out there that will find it as hard. So it's been quite an interesting to if you just look at the podcast, think about men and women, and I guess, Paul, the reason for that, if I could get my words out, is because we want it to be a better place. We want it to be a world where things are more equal, or until we get there, that we recognize that there are differences and really help one another to overcome those, so we can be the most incredible business owners that we can be. And because we want freedom of time, we want freedom of, financially, because we want to make a greater impact and we want to live a great life. And I think that's quite, it's quite heartening, isn't it? That we want to be that ripple effect, Paul, don't we?
We do. and in that perspective isn't gender specific. We just do.
Yeah.
Right? We want everybody to be in that place where they can do the thing they love to do, or build the dream business they've always wanted to build. And we do this podcast because we want to share our experiences and our views and encourage people. It's not about, you need to really think carefully before you do this. Of course you do, but what I'm saying is, be encouraged. Be encouraged. That's the biggest message I think we have. Be encouraged.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's come up for me, and this is kind of on a bit of a tangent, but there have been times when we've talked about different topics or areas where you've actually shown me how challenging it can be for men. And when we've talked at the beginning, like when you started, we've talked about risk, haven't we, and how much risk we would take. And you're saying, well, you went into business and had 4 kids, and that puts a different spin on it, and how men feel that responsibility to maintain that roof over the head, and the challenges that puts on them and on their businesses, and the decisions that they make. So I think I've learnt a lot, maybe starting to get a more balanced approach. We were never here anyway to bash either gender or any gender.
No, but good to share, and I like that balance. But one of the things about balance, Lindsay, is of course to make sure we don't talk forever and end up doing a podcast that's 2 hours long. We are at our point again, which seems to go so quickly. So we're going to have to wait and do the next podcast so we can jump on and carry on. But I think what we're agreeing is, to finish this one off, we're going to carry on a bit with process. We're going to carry on a bit with practicality and making sure that people are learning or becoming more aware of the experience of the practical side of running a business.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a great start to the year on this sort of side of things. I'm loving it, Paul.
Fab. Well, until next time, Lindsay, we'll see you soon.
And you.